Good evening, folks. This is the Factivist Project, and we are the Factivist Report for Sunday, the 8th of January, 2023. We are talking about the bloodless coup that took place in the House of Representatives this week, and just the grand scheme of what's coming our way and what we should expect and how we possibly can work our way out of this, because right now, we have no longer a political party in power. We have a group of fascists who are intent on imposing authoritarian rule on the rest of us here in the United States. So without further ado, I'm turning this over to Dave.
So here's what happened in terms of the vote. I believe it was Friday night, late into Saturday. Basically, you had someone in a sycophant or an ass kisser, a political ass kisser in McCarthy. He wanted the majority chair, the U.S. House chair, so bad that he was willing to do absolutely anything and everything to get that. So he basically, first off, we have Matt Gaetz, who considers, and by the 20 Freedom Caucus, the hardcore guys, nutbags, they consider McCarthy to be the moderate in the Republican Party. There are no moderates in the Republican Party. I want everybody. Shout out to Amy Tronnell. We love you. There are no moderates in the Republican Party. I'm going to repeat that. They all left. They all left last year before they're gone. And you might have one or two sort of in the Senate. They're gone. They're done. It's over.
And by the way, let me interject here. I know somebody at some point floated Fred Upton's name. Fred Upton's not even in office anymore.
No, he's not.
They were floating him because you don't have to be in office to get the speaker's chair. But the notion that anyone was going to put Fred Upton in as Speaker of the House when he voted to impeach Donald Trump,
no way.
Absurd. It would never happen. Never happen.
And on top of that, he just retired. I don't even know if he would accept it.
Right.
So, let's start here. The very first thing, this is from September. This is a Reuters article, Joseph Axe and Jason Lang. Moderates fleeing the U.S. House, that's the GOP, setting stage for more Washington gridlock. Any people, and by the way, we're talking about Adam Kinzinger and Liz Cheney and all of this, but Liz Cheney was voted out. We all know that. But there were others who resigned or declined to be reelected or lost their primary or whatever. There are no moderates left. There is no one to really negotiate with. The
right.
best that you have is McCarthy, because he's behind Kevin McCarthy, because he is pinned to a wall at this point.
Right.
Okay.
And unfortunately for Kevin McCarthy, he needs the Democrats. That's good for us, but not good for him. That's right. Kind of a bad thing for him too. The Democrats, let me just say that the Democrats should play those cards very handily, I would say.
There is an article in here. Well, I'll talk about it in a minute, but they have to be very aware at all times of what's going on. There are some moving pieces to it. They're well aware that McCarthy wants to keep the chair, and he's kind of hamstrung himself. So there's few things that he's going to be able to do. We have the minority leader and we have the majority leader. The majority leader is Andrew McCarthy right now with the GOP. The minority leader is Hakeem Jeffries with the Democratic Party. We'll talk about the differences in a minute, but the bottom line is you have to understand each party leader has to deal with their public, they have to deal with the opposition within their party, and they have to deal with the opposition from outside of their party. And the difference between Kevin McCarthy and Hakeem Jeffries is pretty stark at this point. I have my differences. I have my differences of opinion with Hakeem Jeffries, but McCarthy, he's a lapdog.
Yep.
He wanted the chair.
He's been a lapdog since January 6th. Okay. Yep. I mean, if you listen to his, the video, the audio of the stuff he was saying on the day of the insurrection, if you could hear what he's saying, I've had it with this guy, all of that stuff, you could hear that. And then less than a week later, he's down at Mar-a-Lago kissing Trump's ring. It's hard to, I don't even know. He's like the bottom of the barrel to me.
And he did it after the majority vote. After he
thanked Donald Trump, a man who tried to overthrow the government.
Right after the 15th vote, by the way.
Right.
Okay.
That's never happened. That hasn't happened in I don't know, over a century in this country. And
when it happened the last time, it was 2 votes, not 15.
Right.
The record was like 143, but that was a long time ago. So people wonder what they can do. There are different watchdog groups out there. I have a list of them at the end. Vox has done some good work. I actually have a couple of articles from them. And basically what these groups are saying, and it's not coming up, of course, there we go. What these groups are basically saying is, look, we know that the House is going to come up with all of these investigations. We investigate the investigators. They can't control us. Right now, the Republicans control the U.S. House, but they can't control these outside influences. I understand that some of these guys are Democratic Party players. I get that. But if the information is right, it's right. Okay? So there's a list of groups there. So now you have basically one of the real majority leaders in Matt Gaetz. We have Matt Gaetz, we have Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is basically considered the real majority leader at this point. What Kevin McCarthy did was he made himself a slave to the radical right. That's what he did.
Yep.
Matt Gaetz said either Kevin McCarthy withdraws as majority leader or he agrees to a legislative straitjacket. And what do we mean by that? I'll get to some of the concessions that McCarthy made in a minute, but you'll see it with the House rules votes. Now that McCarthy is majority leader, now they got to decide on the House rules. That should be fun. That could take a week, maybe 2 weeks, because now they're talking about the whole thing with the defense spending, that the House is looking to, go after defense spending. And there's a guy in Texas already saying that he's going to oppose the House rules. So we'll see. There's
also a female. I don't know where she's from. I just saw the article before we went on.
Okay.
There's another one. There's now another one as well.
We've already had 1 week. Let's see if we can have another week. Here are the concessions. This is from Mother Jones. It's actually a really good bullet point list. So this is what the holdouts got from McCarthy. Any member can call for a motion to vacate the speaker's chair. Now, if they do that, I can't remember what it's not a call to vacate. There's a specific name to it. I'm sure when it happens, and it will happen, they still have to get a majority, but that mucks everything up, for more.
Basically, neuters the speaker. That's what it does.
Yeah. Now, and by the way, Hakeem Jeffries says the same thing. Hakeem Jeffries has a pact to protect the candidates, the incumbents that he wants to keep in. But McCarthy and a McCarthy-aligned super PAC, the Congressional Leadership Fund, agreed not to spend in open Republican primaries in safe seats, which means he can't primary these guys that are hamstringing him if he wants to keep the majority seat. Now, by the time the primaries come, maybe he's out and maybe he guns for him. I don't know. The House will hold votes on key conservative bills, including a balanced budget amendment, congressional term limits, border security. Balanced budget amendment basically is if you propose something, you got to take something out.
It's ridiculous. Ridiculous.
Which is efforts to raise the nation's debt ceiling must be paired with spending cuts, move 12 appropriation bills individually instead of passing separate bills to fund government operations, more Freedom Caucus representation on committees, which is going to be huge, including the influential House Rules Committee.
Disgusting.
Which is, I have a feeling that might have been the last thing that Gates asked for. I'm not sure, but you will find out soon enough. When you see who's on the House Rules Committee, that might be it. Cap discretionary spending at fiscal year 2022 levels, which would amount to lower levels for defense and domestic programs, which is what's going to hurt them. The Democrats are going to vote against this already.
Yep.
But the defense spending, that's going to be a big sticking point.
So are the domestic programs. They're both going to be a problem.
Yep. Well, the Democrats are already going to, but anything, let's say there's a domestic program that's a pet project for whoever, you might have a Republican that votes against it because of that. 72 hours to review bills before they come to the floor.
That's because Lauren Boebert can't read.
Give members the ability to offer more amendments to the House floor, which is basically, just Christmas tree. You're just adding stuff on top of bills.
That's all it is.
Yeah, you're just neutering a bill, basically. Yeah. Create an investigative committee to probe the weaponization of the federal government, which is an attack on Biden.
Yeah.
Restore the Holman Rule, which can be used to reduce the salary of government officials.
And I promise you, none of the people on the GOP side will offer up their salary. I promise you.
Correct. There's a new one, which is huge. Okay. Kevin McCarthy gives a new subcommittee sweeping powers and access to classified data. Actually, that might be it, because I almost guarantee you that Gates will be on that subcommittee.
So let me just say this. He is giving them sweeping new powers to access classified data after they express support for the overthrow of the federal government. That is really essentially what we're saying here.
And what classified data do you think they're going to look at?
Oh,
the J6 stuff and whatever.
Exactly.
And they are defending the man that took classified data out of the White House.
Right.
So what is to say that they're not going to do the same? Next thing we're dealing with is the House Rules package, which, they were already talking about people dropping out. And, it's just going to create more of a shit show, more of a spectacle, more, of a log jam, all of that. So we have the Democrats now see an opportunity to maybe kind of put McCarthy in a spot and see what they can get. These are career politicians. They know how to play the game. They know what they can get, and they know what they can't get.
Right.
So they'll just work based on. And by the way, one of the things that they're looking to do is the same thing that the Republicans have been doing for years now. They're looking to make the Republicans look like fools.
Right. That won't take much.
So now you have Kevin McCarthy, who made himself look like an absolute jackass on national television. Okay. He hamstrung himself. He neutered himself with his own opposition. And he put himself in a position where he may have to make concessions to the Democratic Party.
Good.
As opposed to Hakeem Jeffries. And I do have a copy of a little meme or a little picture of the stuff that he wrote, that he read off, the alphabet stuff.
That was a great speech.
2.4 million views. And people loved it. So he endeared himself to the public, at least with this one speech. I want people to understand something. Number one, I don't know how many people really know Hakeem Jeffries yet. People have criticisms of Hakeem Jeffries, that he has taken corporate PAC money, that he is more on the moderate Democratic side, and that he has had issues with the progressives in the past. And I'll get to that in a minute. So there's that part of it. So before you coronate him, just know that there are issues you may have. The second thing is allow him to grow. Maybe over time, he grows to another position, to a higher position, maybe even runs for president.
Look,
but not now.
Nancy Pelosi endorsed him when she handed him that nomination.
Correct.
I trust Nancy Pelosi more than virtually almost anyone in government. Nancy Pelosi has made every right call. I want who she wants.
I'll tell you what I think. I think there is a push to move the Democratic Party further to the left. I think you have seen Joe Biden move further to the left since he was elected. And I think you will see Hakeem Jeffries move further to the left. The prevailing issue is the squad has now matured. They were young when they started. They understand that there are always going to be moderate Democrats in the Democratic Party. And we have to keep everybody together and keep on a concerted path. The one thing I do know about the Democrats is they support everybody's rights. They support, Hakeem Jeffries supports a woman's right to choose. He is not anti-LGBT. He is not anti-trans. He is just more moderate on certain issues. And
banking, housing, that kind of stuff.
We all have to learn how to negotiate and work together. We don't end up like the Republicans. That's the goal here. One message that I want to bring in terms of the House vote, every single House vote, Hakeem Jeffries got 212. Right. Every House member, including AOC, including all of the squad, including everybody. Right. Okay. Yep. The people who were squabbling, the people who were, basically brawling with each other, making themselves look like jackasses. That was the Republican Party. Right. Politics has always been give and take. It's always been this way. It's always been this way in the Democratic Party. That's what this game is. It is what the game is. The game is everybody gets a little bit of what they want, and then the next time they get a little bit more. It's never an instant change. So everybody needs to just sit back and understand that there's a party that knows how to negotiate within itself and keep that shit private. They don't make a spectacle of themselves. And there are just certain things within the limitations that can be done quickly. You know, I know
Yep.
everybody wants to get a woman's right to choose back. I'm going to say it yet again. You want a woman's right to choose back? You need to vote in a bigger majority for the Democrats. That's the only way
Right.
that's going to happen. End of story. You're not getting rid of the Supreme Court the way it is until you have a bigger Democratic Party majority. The Supreme Court is now in the process of basically legally sanctifying everything that the far right wants. Okay?
Now, one part of this was Jeffries kind of introducing himself to the national stage.
Right.
He's already been introduced to the New York stage, and he's working on trying to unify the progressives as well as the moderates. And it's gonna take time.
Right.
And there's a reason for that. Now, he has also reached out. The whole speech, the whole A to Z speech was basically, look, I'm willing to work with Republicans on some things. And the Republicans were like, yay, bipartisanship, yay, because they thought he was, talking like Obama. But then when he did the alphabet stuff, he's like, I'm not going to put up with this. I want this, not this, not this, not this, not this, not this. And they just started to boo and like go crazy. But he put his foot down. Not only did he set the stage for his relationship with his opposition and tell them point blank what he's going to put up with, what he's not, he endeared himself to the national stage.
Right.
Now, the New York stage is a different thing because they know him a little bit. But here's what he said about McCarthy. We can agree to disagree without being disagreeable. Jeffries has been coached and trained by Nancy Pelosi. She picked him, as Sarah said. The whole thing with her giving Jeffries the gavel to give to McCarthy, that was on purpose. That was a message. She's saying that he's my guy. He's the guy that I wanted.
Right.
Okay. Nancy Pelosi has been in for 20 years, was in for 20 years. She had to learn over time how to give and take. She is a more moderate representative, but she has learned to soften over time and move with the times.
Yep.
Over time. Hakeem Jeffries is going to have to learn to do the same thing. By the way, right this second, right now, and especially, I believe it's advantageous that we have someone from New York in that House seat, in that majority or minority seat, rather, sorry, because we need the seats that we lost.
Right.
Because of some of our internal nonsense.
Right.
And that's the only way we're going to get it. We need Hakeem Jeffries there. We don't need his focus somewhere else to run for Senate or president or whatever.
Yeah. He just got here. He
just got there. Calm down.
Okay.
Calm down. A little history. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She's had spats with Jeffries before. They're in neighboring districts. There were issues that they had, internal issues, blah, blah, blah. He's more, as I said, he's more moderate. He has ties to the banks. He's taking corporate PAC money. He has issues with housing. And Ocasio-Cortez is more progressive than him. He also, she threatened to primary him at one point at the 2020 primaries. He set up a PAC to protect more moderate candidates. My thing is, the primaries are the primaries. The primaries are over. Now it's time. Oh Lord. Oh.
Oh no.
Go away. So, by the way, anybody we're going to give you these links. Do not click on these McAfee things. It's like phishing. So, that's what it is. They do have a history. However, AOC says chaos in the GOP House shows that the squad is reasonable in comparison. And it's true because they're working with Jeffries now. Now that they know the deal, as I said, everybody voted for Jeffries. It was a consensus. They have a common enemy. The common enemy is the right wing right now. The right wing that is attacking trans rights, attacking women's rights, attacking minority right to vote, attacking whatever, abortion rights, whatever under the sun, the right to read a book.
They are starting to remove books with LGBT characters from the school libraries in Florida. I have heard, and I need to find this legislation, that in the state of Oklahoma, they're going to try to force trans people to transition back to their original designated birth sex. I don't understand how that has anything to do with running a government. So,
and I saw one state that's already putting laws in place that make it illegal for people to have a certain medication, even adults. So this is not about just first they did children. It's about the children. It's never been about the children. It's about trans people, gay people, biracial people.
I believe it's Oklahoma. I believe that is Oklahoma. I believe that was Oklahoma.
It is. It is Oklahoma. Yeah.
So I'm going to talk about this. There are 18 seats, not including might not even include Santos, but I think it does. Not including Lauren Boeber's seat, by the way. So that's 19. 18 seats that basically have Republicans in areas and states in which Biden won handily.
Right.
So those are targets. But for one of the targets is New York, and this Hakeem Jeffries basically said after the elections that we need to do a postmortem. Well, here's a postmortem. The primaries are the primaries. Yeah, the Gen Zs who effectively took the DCC chair out by not voting for him, Maloney, but they put a Republican in.
Yeah, this is
to show their power.
They have to learn, okay?
You can't do that.
This is what they have to learn. They have to learn not to vote against their own best interest. That does not help them. Even if they're Gen Zers, it does not help them. It does not help them. This is a complicated game. It is not like you come in as a Gen Zer and you make all these changes, boom, 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 and everybody's going to vote for them. They need to learn. They haven't learned.
Because what happens? You have a very popular progressive candidate in a very progressive area. I saw it happen in New York. Then you have Republicans backing a more moderate candidate and just flooding them with money, and all of a sudden they won the primary. So you're cutting your own throat.
Right.
Okay. We need to learn to work together. Yes, the primary is a primary, but once the primary is over, you support whatever Democrat it is, because we do have a common enemy.
Right.
That was a problem. The other problem was we had candidate, and this was a similar problem in California. We had candidates who would resign their posts in the House to run for Senate or governor or whatever, without thinking about who's going to replace them.
Right.
That's what happened with Tom Suozzi, and that's how we got George Santos.
Right.
Okay.
So the message here is that the Democratic parties in those states need to get their shit together.
Yeah, they do.
Absolutely. And it's not just New York. It was Florida.
Yep.
And it's California. And
yep.
Those are all key states. Florida is completely red now. It's a state that used to be purple. It used to be a seriously important swing state for the Democrats. They need to honestly get rid of the chair of that Democratic Party in Florida, put somebody else in and rework that whole thing. We have, Rick Scott's seat is vulnerable down there in the Senate. We need that seat. They need to get it together.
Right. And by the way, right now, New York is blue still. However, doesn't always have to be that way. It could turn purple and it can turn red. Same thing with California. You're seeing it. You're seeing it in real time. It's happening.
Right.
So let's see here. So this was talking about the Gen Z, how they felt about that one seat. One seat can make a big difference.
Right.
You saw it. You saw it with the House vote. So now you see that the squad is now working with Jeffries, and AOC is learning to work with Jeffries. Somebody asked her, are you going to be able to work with Hakeem Jeffries? And she said, that's something we're both going to have to learn to do. That is progress.
We talk about, yes, it is. And we talk about AOC, but the real driver of the progressives is Jayapal.
It's Jayapal, because she's been there for a while.
She's been there for a while. She's a smart woman. She can work across that bridge. She has. And she's actually doesn't get as much play as she should, I don't think. But the reason for that is AOC is fulfilling her role. This is her role.
Yep.
Okay, this is her role. It's her role to be out in front and be vocal.
She's a face. She's a face. She's the bully pulpit. She's she's kind of like the Bernie Sanders, taking over for the whole Bernie Sanders thing. Now, there's another person. Deb just mentioned Florida. You may not like some of the things that Freed has said, Max Freed, the Gen Z House rep in Florida.
He needs to learn too.
We need to help develop him.
Right.
You don't have to primary him. He's going to learn.
Right.
Okay. But he needs to stop bashing the baby boomers and blaming them for everything, because he's going to go through some of the mistakes that we have. It's just a matter of time.
Right.
So,
let's call it youth. Okay. He's young.
He's young. He's new. He's where AOC was a few years back, actually. And I have a feeling that AOC might take him under her wing.
Yeah.
So just patience. We have who we have right now. Here's a list of what's called the crossovers. So this is the UVA Center for Politics. This is a list. And by the way, you're going to see it on Twitter all over the place. This is where it comes from. Biden district Republicans, there are 18 of them. This is a target. So we have 2 in Arizona, but I'm going to mention California. California, New York, and there's one in Oregon I want to mention for a minute, for a reason. You have 11 out of the 18 just from there. I believe it's 11, but more. So 2 in Arizona, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in California. Don Bacon, I believe, he's Nebraska. Keene in New Jersey. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in New York. We have Lori Chavez in DeReamer in Oregon, Brian Fitzpatrick in Pennsylvania, and Jen Kiggins. Okay, so if we take those, they have 5. Including Mary Peltola, Jared Golden, Marcy Kaptur in Ohio, Matt Cartwright, and Marie Glossenkamp Perez. One other one, Abigail Spanberger. They have been targeting her for a very long time because she's ex-intelligence and she's in Virginia.
Right.
So
she just won again.
Yeah. But they target her every single time.
Right.
So we talked about New York. They're looking to flip some of those seats. I would say 2. Yeah, We could get at least 2, probably 3. But before, everybody needs to cool their jets on Santos for a minute. Before you scream about getting him out, who you running?
Right.
Zimmerman lost by 8 percentage points. Zimmerman was touted, he's 68 years old, and he was touted as working for both Obama and Clinton. And apparently people in that district didn't like that.
Well, here's the thing, though. You have to remember now, if you have seen the articles out there from Santos's constituents, I'm not sure that some of those people wouldn't vote for Zimmerman now. Some of his constituents
That's true.
regret voting for him.
Right.
A lot of his constituents regret voting for him now. So,
however, is it enough?
We don't know. We won't know.
And who are they going to put? God knows. I mean, God knows who was in the primary. If Santos won, why did he win? Did he win because he lied, or did he win because there's nobody else? I don't know.
Right. So anyway, so here's my point. He's not going away next week.
No, he's not.
He's not. In fact, I'm going to say this. The only way he can go away is if the Republicans remove him.
Or he's indicted.
Or he's indicted. Or
extradited to Brazil.
Brazil has reopened the case against him because they now know where he is.
Right.
Okay. So they have already said they're reopening his criminal case. He could very well be extradited to Brazil. So that opens up that seat. But more than likely, he'll be sitting in there for a year. I don't see anything happening fast here. All right. And if it does, well, then it does, and we react to it. But the fact of the matter is, I'm going to predict that within a year to 2 years, these horses' asses in the House are going to make life so miserable. They're just going to make their own misery. I really do believe that.
Right.
I would be surprised if they didn't. So I don't think it's an immediate worry, but I don't see him serving out his term, but I don't see this happening in the next 3 months or the next.
No, I see it happening within 8 months to a year.
Right.
And if that happens, are they going to even fill the seat? By the time they fill the seat, the election's going to happen. You're going to have the primary for the thing. Right. So, but let's just, for argument's sake, say he resigns. Who are you putting in? Are you going to get Swazi back? Is it there's a more progressive candidate, but she hasn't done well in primaries? Do you put Zimmerman back in? I actually like the progressive candidate. I like her very much, but I don't know if it's going to be a fit in that district.
So let me ask you this question: If he has to leave his seat for whatever reason.
For whatever reason.
Do they appoint someone, or do they elect someone, or is there a special election?
There's a special election. There's a special election.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. You have to have a primary. Who are you going to put in that primary?
Yeah, I don't know. They should start thinking about that now.
Yep. And by the way, John Cooper, there's a couple other people in that district. I'm asking him, and he's like, I'm not sure yet. They're looking at it. But they're looking at it now, but they're not floating names out.
Right.
And I'm just going to say, because we're going to move to California in a minute, everybody's, Katie Porter, is going to take Dianne Feinstein's seat. Who's filling Katie Porter's seat? Everything's a moving part.
Right.
If you take her out, they're already looking to see how vulnerable she was, how much funding they're going to need for that special election, who is the best fit, and who would win, and so.
Right.
You can't risk a potential loss in a Senate seat and then lose a House seat too.
Right.
It happened in Florida with both Val Demings and Charlie Crist.
Right.
So here's some of the issues with California. California is more like Florida. Not only did you have people, retiring, resigning, and you have this stuff too. Chrissy Smith knows she'll lose her congressional rates, and she blames the party. Lack of funding. They're not giving her support. that stuff. That's, being angry because you're losing.
Right.
I get it. And you know what? A lot of this is valid.
Right.
The California, Democratic Party, they dropped the ball on the funding.
Right.
Especially in a midterm election. If you don't advertise, if there's low voting turnout anyway, typically in the Democratic Party during the midterms. Even I think that people just assumed that because of the climate and abortion, Roe v. Wade, and everything going on, that people are just going to flock to the polls. Now, we did much better than we thought we were going to do, but we lost some races that we could have won.
In all seriousness, given everything that was done before the primaries, we should have steamrolled to victory.
Yes, we should have.
Yeah, we should have.
And you cannot just, I understand redistricting, gerrymandering was part of it. Redistricting was an issue and this was a big infight with Cuomo. When he moved out and the redistricting, it really hurt us. Even though we lost only one seat, it actually lost us more, races. I understand all that, but you also need to get the vote out.
A bigger turnout at the polls can overcome some of that. And
yeah,
that's what people need to get. 52% is not going to do it. It is not going to do it. 52% of registered Democrats, in the face of all of this, showing up at the polls is freaking dismal, in my opinion.
Okay, so now I'll bring this up because we see more Latino Republicans running and winning. And I want people to understand that just because you're Latino, African American, a woman, gay, whatever, in the Republican Party, doesn't mean you're representing the people that you are.
Right.
Okay, I just want people to understand that. So we have this person. All right. She won. Now, this is a more red district, but it's winnable. And actually, it's in a state that Biden won. So she's the first Latina congresswoman from Oregon. And she ran under, let me see if I can find it. There we go. Chavez DeRemer, a small business owner. She was like a realtor. I think she's a realtor. Former mayor of the Portland suburb of Happy Valley, built her campaign around concerns over homelessness and rising crime. Okay. You have to hammer, especially the homelessness part, on top of Tina Kotek's effectiveness. If Tina Kotek, who is the new governor of Oregon, if she becomes effective, she may be able to help push this person out.
Right.
Okay. Tina Kotek is not only a champion of housing, and she'll call this person out. Because, you're talking about homelessness. She's a realtor who's pushing for homelessness, or against homelessness, sorry. So how are you pushing against it? By selling them houses that they can't afford? I don't know.
Right.
I'm just asking. So Tina Kotek is going to make sure that this person is doing the right thing, and she's not going to call them out. She's also a champion of labor in the state of Oregon. She doesn't like this guy, Phil Knight, because he's a billionaire. I believe it's Nike. Okay, this guy hates him. I hate her. She is Tina Kotek. She is actually originally from Pennsylvania, and she's the first gay woman elected governor of Oregon. So, all about housing has been for years. Elected Tina Kotek promises to do more for affordable housing, which will be fun to see her criticize the the Republican from that district, because she's full of it.
I mean, she's done a lot. She has a statewide rent control bill.
Yeah.
You know.
It's a big deal.
It is.
Promising to reduce the racial homeownership gap by 20% by 2027. Now, that's a goal. She hasn't done it, but, you know. Nine-year stint marked the longest tenure of any speaker in state history. Kotek's known for, she's kind of known like the Chicago mayor. Oh, what's the Chicago mayor's name?
Lightfoot.
Lightfoot, yeah, Lori Lightfoot. She's kind of known to be like her, a little, you know, like rigid, and that's, if it's needed, that's good. Okay, that's Tina Kotek from years ago, about 10 years ago. Kotek drew increasing criticism from Republicans and moderate Democrats that she had grown too rigid and looked to achieve success at all costs, which means that they weren't getting what they wanted. Labor loves her, and of course, you have the guy Phil Knight, who is the Nike co-founder, doesn't like her because she's pro-labor.
Right.
So, but the point being that when you have a Democratic governor, sometimes if she's that successful, she can help push out a rep. Now let's hope that. Now, I mentioned activist groups and watchdog groups. Here's a list of them. Okay. We have Courage for America. Okay. This is just pushing back on the right-wing rhetoric crap. Okay. So we also had this, I believe this is the veteran. Yeah. Common Defense, which is veterans groups. They endorse candidates, the whole 9 yards. They write articles and update people on things happening. This is, oh yeah, House Accountability War Room. It kind of reminds me of what Deb did with her website, actually.
Right.
Yes, it's a little more polished, whatever.
Maybe.
That's Kevin McCarthy's best picture ever. So
Always looking like a grouchy old fucking fart that he is.
So news articles, and they're kind of encapsulating things from good sources like the New York Times, et cetera, et cetera. So the Congressional Integrity Project. So they're focusing on the investigations that the House has already talked about doing, Afghanistan, Hunter Biden, all that kind of stuff.
Such a fucking waste of money.
And pushing back on it. They're fighting back against those politically motivated attacks and fact-checking them. Now, they do have leadership, you know.
Oh, Accountable is a pretty good place. I like Accountable. I use them a lot.
Right. It's one of those. So, defend democracy, you know. So, some of these do a crossover. So, one thing I wanted to say, we'll probably be talking.
That sounds familiar to me. I just left you an article before we went on about Maura Healey's partner.
Right. I think it was from one of those groups. Yeah.
I think it was Defend Democracy, or
I think so.
one
Yeah.
of the groups that's a watchdog over. It's a brand new position for her,
Right.
but she just took over the leadership of that.
I have a couple more things. The first thing is, we talked about the House. I'm probably going to talk about the Senate either next week or, in a week or so to come, because we need to gear ourselves up for it.
We have one more shot at this, folks. Okay. Anybody, it's time now to stop the gloating over stopping the red wave. Okay. It's done now. You're seeing the fact that we lost the House. That did not have to happen. All right. We lost the House, and you see where they're going. If I'm going to tell you this, and I cannot overstate this, if they hang on to the House in 2024 and take the Senate, I will tell you this right now. It's game, set, and match here. I don't know what it takes to get people to understand this, but there are no solutions to your individual problems in a fascist authoritarian government. Okay, there are no solutions there. That is the corporate state, the total corporate state.
I also, before I give the last couple of slides, this is not 2008. This is not Obama had a majority. That was a completely different place and time. It was
2016.
2008 was a billion miles away, compared to where we are now. Right. There is no negotiating with legislative terrorists. That's what these people are.
Right.
Okay. You saw a legislative coup literally on January 6th, 2023, the 2-year anniversary. I've been saying that a couple.
Right. That's exactly right.
Okay. So make no mistake, there is no negotiating. None. Now, Obama had this thing in his head, and he was wrong about being bipartisan. Hakeem Jeffries mentioned it, but he said when possible.
Right.
Knowing full well that it's going to be very rare.
Right.
Okay. You need to keep it in your head. Anybody that wants any kind of change and hates what's going on with the right wing, if you like what's going on with the right wing,
then you're probably not in the right place.
Then you're not in the right place, or you're trolling us, or whatever, or you're looking to bully us, which we're not going to put up with, by the way. We will do what we got to do. But if you really want change, we need a Democratic president. And by the way, it doesn't have to be Biden, but make up your mind. You want a primary, okay? So
we need to do a show on Joe Biden and his accomplishments, because that shit gets lost in all of this discussion.
We do. And we mentioned it in the preview show. That's coming too.
Yeah,
we're going to do a whole thing on it. I've had my issues with Biden, but they are, they're getting knocked down over time.
If you want to really have it knocked down, you need to read Peril by Bob Woodward. Yeah. You will learn that he is quite the strategist. He kind of knows what he's doing, in spite of what everybody says about him.
Right.
He is quite the strategist, and he was even at the end of, even when he was out of office, he was planning. He knows what he's doing.
So we
to do a lot.
We need somebody in the executive branch. We need both the legislative branches. The judicial branch we're going to have to deal with later, because you need massive majorities to have any reform with the Supreme Court.
Right.
We need a majority in the House, which is what we're talking about right now. We're going to have to deal with what our voting did. Okay. Listen, it could have been worse, and I'm glad it's not. But we're going to have to deal with it, take our opportunities as they come. If Santos leaves, great. We'll deal with the special election, but we need to plan 2 years, we get another bite at the apple.
Right.
I have a list right here of 18. There are more. You know, Bobert. I don't know if Adam Frisch is running again, but we'll see.
I'd like to just interject one thing also about the state of Michigan.
Yeah.
Michigan took complete control of the state. The Democrats took complete control of the states for the first time in almost 50 years. And I believe in large part because of Gretchen Whitmer.
Right.
I think Gretchen Whitmer, yes, she focused on a woman's right to choose, but that was not all she focused on. She focused on the economic concerns. She focused on education. She focused on freedoms. She literally laid a blueprint for what everybody else should be thinking about. Okay. Look,
by the way, let me throw this out there too. She had nothing to do with Flint, and she's been pushing for the environment and water safety forever.
Right.
Okay.
He was not in office for Flint. That was a Republican. Okay.
Snyder.
Yeah.
Rick Snyder.
By the way, Rick Snyder was going to be a fellow at Harvard University, and when he pulled that stunt in Flint, they immediately
they pulled it.
Yep.
So here's a couple things. As I said, we're going to have to, take a look at the Senate. There are some seats that we can look at. One of them, Josh Hawley. We already have a candidate.
It's a really good ad.
Let's see. Is it freezing on me at the very end? Maybe. Yeah. So I'm trying to remember the guy's name, and it won't scroll down. Hold on. Let me. Sure.
While he's fixing that, let me also say one other thing. With the Supreme Court, there is a history of them voting against precedent, but it is not voting against precedent to remove people's rights. They vote against precedent to expand people's rights.
Right.
Historically. That is all changing now under this whole new regime. And people need to understand, in order for that to change, we need to be able to have a Democratic majority that will break the filibuster. That's 60 votes. People need to understand that 51 isn't going to do it. 52 isn't going to do it. We need a Democratic Party majority.
So the name, the guy's name is Lucas Kuntz or Kuntz. I believe it's Kuntz. I'm not sure, but he's a former Marine. A lot of times when you have a conservative or a right winger like Josh Hawley, sometimes they run somebody from the military. Sometimes that's what it takes. That's what it takes. That's what it takes. We need to get the Democrats need to get over that too. Like Abigail Spanberger, we got her in.
Right.
So, hold on one second. So, I'm not going to run the ad, but it's worth looking at. And
you got to look at it. It won't play right on here if we run it. So, but you have to take a look at it because it's really good. By the way, Josh Hawley is releasing his book.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Manhood.
It's called Manhood. The man who raised his fist on the mall and then you saw him running like a little pansy when they came in the door of the Capitol. He wrote a book called Manhood. It's coming out this month, I believe. So
this is the Hakeem Jeffries speech, basically, that he did say he would reach across the aisle when possible, but Democrats will always put, and I swear, I think he got this from somebody's little thing on
oh, you're frozen.
but
there you go.
Yeah.
Are you there?
I'm here.
Yeah, we lost you for a few.
Hi. Yes, apparently I'm unstable.
Yeah, well, we know that, but that's neither here nor there. Do you want to repeat what you were saying? Because
okay. Basically, what I was saying is that this is the speech. He started with, "I'll reach across the aisle when possible, but this is what we're not going to tolerate, and this is what we're going to value." Okay, and I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it was clever. It got people's attention, and it ticked the Republicans off, and it got an immediate reaction from the Republicans. Did exactly what it was supposed to do. And by the way, Republicans advertise all the time. Again, Democrats have to get over it. Advertising is part of this whole thing. You have to get the message across. Okay?
You do. I mean, honestly, folks, let's look at it. I mean, you can complain about this all you want, but people respond to advertising when they buy a product. You buy a product because you see an ad. All right? Yep. You buy a candidate because you see an ad. If the Democrats never advertised their candidates, never spent the money on that, we'd be nothing but a Republican country. Look this is the way it is. We are responding to the things that the people respond to. And whether you want to accept it or not, you're all wrapped up in this system. You're not going to go out and find these candidates on your own, and you know it. Let's admit it. All right?
The bottom line is, number one, especially during the midterms, a lot of people don't even know there's an election.
Because they don't vote.
And they don't vote. And now, especially with COVID, people are still homebound, okay?
Vote by mail.
And maybe they didn't remember the mail-in deadline or whatever. Or, I'm just saying, I'm not giving them an excuse. I'm giving them reasons to remind them,
right?
Okay, before it's too late. Okay, because you look at Adam Frisch, he lost by 500 votes.
Right.
All right. There was one in 2020. A Democrat lost by 6 votes, U.S. House rep. Okay, so.
And yes, there was a recount. Okay.
Yeah.
So the bottom line is this: every single person in the House was up in the 2022 midterms. Every single one is up again in 2024. It's a direct repeat. We have a chance to take the House back. They don't have a big lead. Let's just fucking do it. Okay?
Do not depend on the DOJ. Do not depend on Merrick Garland. This is in your hands. Okay? Maybe we get a couple. Maybe. We'll see. Whatever.
We know a couple are under investigation. We do. Whether they're going to be done before 2024 is a moot point, because right now they need to focus on Trump and get that done. They can't put all of these people on their plate and then have no way to accomplish their goals. You people need to understand this. The statute of limitations expires in 2026, not 2024. They need to focus on what they're working on now. Mar-a-Lago documents, the J6 insurrection, insofar as Trump and his inner circle is concerned. That's the priority.
And by the way, going after the rabid dogs that are the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys and all those, that like the armies, basically, the militias.
They have to neuter those people.
They have to get rid of those guys too. Not everybody that they're going after is in office either. Some of them are already out of office. Mo Brooks. Then you have Mark Meadows. Right. Then you have, and again, yes, Ginny Thomas, maybe, but it takes years sometimes. Please, for those of you who are on my Twitter and on my social media, I'm not going to put, I'm not going to hear this. You're going to do what you're going to do, and I know that. Stop telling me if Merrick Garland doesn't do something, I'm going to independent. I'm not going to vote for Democrats anymore. What is it going to do for you? Nothing.
Let me just say this.
He's moving forward.
Let me just say this for the last time. Stop with I can't take any more the hashtag, put them all in jail.
Right.
All right. No, that's not going to happen. Josh Hawley raising his fist, walking across the mall, that's not a crime. You
Right.
can't remove him from office. You can't put him in jail. You can vote him out. You can vote him out. Okay? That's your job. Vote him out. They have to prove evidence of a conspiracy to get these people out of office. It's easy to indict people who were stupid enough to film themselves breaking into the Capitol. Those guys are easy. Getting Trump in his inner circle, you need emails, texts, connections, testimony. And by the way, Merrick Garland isn't indicting anybody. It's a grand jury that's going to hand down an indictment, which means that Jack Smith has to bring all of this in front of a grand jury and get them to say, yes, indict. And that's where we are right now. Understand what this is all about. And by the way, Donald Trump and his inner circle have been using the legal system to stall this whole thing for months. They just got Mark Meadows' text a month ago.
Right.
So understand how the system works. You know, it's not, jail them all. It is vote them out. Okay? That's what you need to do.
Stop not doing what you're supposed to do, and then blame. I get this from my guys all the time. Deb hears it all the time. You don't write a statement or you don't come to work or whatever, and then you complain, oh, Dave, do something for me. Okay, come to work. Write a statement. Do what you're supposed to do. Vote. If you vote, that's one step closer to getting what you want.
Right.
You can't control what anybody else does. Oh, nobody else is going to vote anyway. Do you know how many people said that? So I'm just saying we have to be smarter about this stuff. All right.
And you're going to freaking hate me by the end of 2024. And I don't really give a shit. I'm just telling you. I've spent most of my life not caring what most people think about me. So you're in for it. I mean, this is it. This is do or die, folks. If you think we beat them in the midterms, you're wrong. They're all sitting in the House. They're in the House of Representatives. They're in control. Okay?
We are
Can I just say, not to mention, they're sitting in the House, but they're partying, they're drinking, they're having their orgies right now.
Right.
They literally just shipped in a whole bunch of alcohol to celebrate McCarthy. They're the ones boozing it up. Right. And they're pointing at Democrats, accusing Democrats of bringing liquor on the floor when Republicans are doing that. And
did you hear what AOC said? She said if we were drinking during this speaker election, we'd all be unconscious by now.
Yeah.
The Republicans are an international joke. Right now, we're a joke. Yeah. We were a joke when Trump was in. Now the House is making us look like idiots. I know people were entertained watching the House of Commons and people like yelling and screaming at each other in Britain. I'm sure that's a different thing. They've been doing that forever. To see that brawl, that is a whole new level of idiocy.
It is.
It really is. Look, there has been disagreement. There have been disagreements ever since the beginning of this whole thing. Before we even created the United States, there were arguments about the Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights, and the Constitution. There were hardcore fights over it. You had the Federalists, blah, blah, blah. So, listen, there have always been disagreements. But now you're seeing the corrosion of democracy.
You are. You're seeing the corrosion of democracy. You solve your problems at the voting booth. Go to the voting booth. You can vote these people out faster than the DOJ can remove them. They have to build a case. All you have to do is go check a box. Go do it. All right, gang, I'm shutting it down.
Yep.